Hello gamers and welcome back to another Heroes of the Storm guide, and this one will be for the latest addition to the roster of Heroes of the Storm. It's our favorite Frost Mage from the Warcraft universe and none other than Jaina herself. So in this guide we will break down her abilities and the build that I use, which I have found the most efficient until now. So guys, thank you very much for joining me. Please throw a like if you haven't even already, and so just know if you found this video informative and or entertaining. These guides are very time consuming and I really hope you like them. Subscribe for more Heroes of the Storm guides, and without further ado, let's hop right into it. So, as a Frost Mage, Jaina starts off with her passive. Her passive is called Frostbite, and what it does is that each time Jaina casts a spell, applies a debuff on the enemies, which is called Chill. Now, these debuffed enemies take reduced movement speed, and they have, for 4 seconds, amplified damage on them by 50% by all of her abilities, which actually fits the Frost Mage theme quite well. Now, moving on to the rest of her abilities, her Q is called Frostbolt. She fires a skill shot in a straight line, which damages and applies chill to the enemies. Now, as you can see here, I take Winter Reach at level 1 always, just because it increases the range of her spell, and personally that's the only problem that I have with Jaina at the moment, is that I find personally that her spells have quite limited range, especially as a W, as you will see. So, since he's a ranged assassin and he uses the spells in order to push, do damage and of course stay safe, since he's very squishy of course, upgrades on spell range and RF effect is always the best choice to make. So another thing that I have noticed as far as her Q is concerned is that it has quite a narrow width, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because since it's very narrow as a spell, it's easy to slip it through enemies and finish off those running enemies and those that are trying to escape. And it's a bad thing just because if you are not very experienced with skill shots, it may be a little bit tricky to pull them off, and you may miss a lot of Qs. But as we said, it's a good spell if you want precision strikes and land spell nearly always when you want to go. Now moving on to the W, it's one of the most iconic spells in the Warcraft lore. It's actually called Blizzard, and as you have imagined, it's now a spell that does damage and inflicts chill to all the enemies that it hits. Now the only problem that I have with Blizzard at its basic form is that the range is quite limited. Quite so that I feel that in its basic form, as we said, it doesn't have the range to keep Jaina out of harm's way. As you can see in this clip, not only don't have the range to shoot on the other side of the platform, losing important strategic advantage for my team, but also I had to move inner into combat, exposing myself in potentially dangerous situations. So, as you can see in this little presentation here, what we can do in order to enhance this ability and make it more useful is that at level 4 we can take the Snowstorm talent, and as you can see it increases the radius of where the skill impacts, so it affects way more units on the area where it lands. Moving on into improving this spell further, at level 13 the talent that we need to take is Stormfront. What it does is that it increases greatly the range from where the Blizzard can be cast, making now the spell extremely useful for kiting, pushing or killing distant enemies. Right, so having said that, time to move on to the next of the Jaina skill, and that's the E. It's called Cone of Cold, which is another iconic spell from the Warcraft universe, and it's a spell that damages and chills enemies in a specific direction depending where it's aimed. Again, as with Blizzard, in order to make this spell useful, we have to take at level 7 Ice Flows, which doubles the width of the spell and also causes its cooldown to be reduced by half a second for each target hit. Proceeding into improving the skill's effectiveness, we target team contribution for the endgame and crown control. And why this talent is so important is because Numbling Blast, as it's called, stuns and roots all the enemies for 1 second that it hits. So this makes it extremely useful in team fights and in situations where you have to block escaping enemies, like here as you saw, and of course when you need to make distance for your own allies. So, having said that, here we are at the heroic abilities. We have a choice of Ring of Frost and Summon Water Elemental. Both of them iconic abilities, both of them useful, but in a different way. So, if we compare Ring of Frost with the Water Elemental, even though Ring of Frost is a nice ground control ability, it doesn't get approved for our build for a very simple reason. I believe that the Ring of Frost, from my experience, is more targeted at the early game rather than the end game. And if we compare it with the level 20 talent that the Water Elemental gets, it's a pretty clear choice.
Choose a talent.
In level 20, the Water Elemental mimics the basic abilities of the player, which makes it extremely viable and extremely versatile in teamfight situations. The Water Elemental can mimic the Q ability and the E ability. And all the effects that apply on your spells apply on the spells that the Elemental casts too. So you can understand how potent this ground control build is once you have reached its max potential. So guys, having arrived at this point, now in the background you can see you can watch a small compilation of clips I have prepared for you. It's from the recent games I played, and just to show you the strengths of this build, to give you a better understanding of it, how it works. Now then, thank you very much guys for joining me for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed this guide. It was very time consuming for me, but worth it all the way. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to throw me a like so I know that you enjoyed it too. And remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thank you very much guys. Also remember that these guys are just information and are not mandatory. It's not a mandatory skill list. So you can apply all this in your own build, make it even better, thankfully. Depending on your playstyle, of course, right? So, thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, guys.